The nature of cinematic terror changed forever on a rainy weekend in the late summer of 1999, though the world did not realize it until the screams began echoing from the back rows of crowded multiplexes. Before that moment, horror was a grand, theatrical spectacle built on practical special effects, expensive animatronics, recognizable movie stars, and sweeping orchestral scores designed to tell the audience exactly when to gasp. It was an era dominated by polished studio productions, where the monsters were safely trapped behind million-dollar budgets and obvious Hollywood artifice. Then, without warning, a strange and deeply unsettling phenomenon emerged from the dark woods of Maryland, arriving in the form of a grainy, shaky, handheld video that looked less like a movie and more like a recovered piece of evidence from a horrific crime scene. This was not the polished fiction audiences were accustomed to consuming, but a visceral, suffocating nightmare that blurred the absolute boundary between reality and fiction in a way that had never been attempted on a mass scale. Millions of viewers walked into theaters genuinely believing they were about to witness the final tragic moments of 3 real college students who had vanished without a trace while investigating a regional myth. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating, sparking widespread panic, intense media debates, and an unprecedented level of cultural obsession. People left theaters physically ill from the combination of motion sickness and absolute, unadulterated dread, yet they kept returning, driven by a morbid curiosity to witness a mystery that felt far too real to ignore. At the absolute center of this cultural firestorm was a young woman whose terrified face, illuminated by the cold glow of a camcorder light as tears ran into her woolen cap, became the defining image of an entire cinematic generation. Her desperate whispered apology to her parents became a haunting mantra echoed across the globe, cementing her place in the annals of pop culture history before she even understood the magnitude of what had occurred. Yet, almost as quickly as she had ascended to the apex of global fame, she vanished into the shadows, leaving behind an industry that seemed eager to exploit her image while offering remarkably little in return. For decades, her absence from the public eye fueled rumors and speculation, turning her into a living myth that closely mirrored the very legend she had helped create on screen. Now, decades after she walked away from the bright lights of Hollywood to seek solace in a completely different world, the machinery of the entertainment industry has spun back into motion, threatening to resurrect the old ghosts of the past for a modern audience. As giant production companies prepare to reimagine the foundational text of modern horror, a shocking revelation has emerged from a tiny, isolated town in rural Maine, where the former actress has finally broken her silence to confront the industry that once claimed her identity. Her refusal to participate in this high-profile revival has sent shockwaves through the cinematic community, raising profound questions about ownership, artistic autonomy, and the true cost of digital immortality. To truly understand why a pioneer of modern cinema would completely turn her back on a multi-million-dollar franchise, we must first look beyond the surface of the silver screen and into the dark mechanisms of fame itself. Before we unravel the deeper details of this escalating battle over creative rights and personal legacy, take a moment to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an in-depth investigative report into the hidden truths of the entertainment world. The story that is currently unfolding in the quietest corners of the northeastern woods is not merely a dispute over an upcoming movie remake, but a deeply personal stand against the relentless appetite of modern media conglomerates. The announcements reverberating through Hollywood circles speak of a massive multi-picture agreement designed to introduce a historic masterpiece to a brand new generation of viewers, utilizing the most advanced production techniques and celebrated horror minds of the current era. Industry heavyweights have publicly claimed that the entire original team has enthusiastically aligned with this grand corporate vision, presenting a united front that promises to honor the roots of the phenomenon. However, this carefully constructed narrative of total harmony fractured completely when a singular, defiant voice spoke out from the wilderness, exposing a starkly different reality hidden beneath the corporate press releases. The contrast between the chaotic, hyper-connected world of modern film production and the serene, strictly low-tech existence of the woman who started it all could not be more profound. Living in a secluded community of fewer than 800 residents, surrounded by the quiet rhythms of nature and the steady pursuit of personal peace, she has spent years rebuilding a life entirely separate from the fictional terror that defined her youth. Her journey from an underpaid, overwhelmed 24-year-old performer caught in a global media vortex to a practicing Buddhist seeking simplicity is a narrative of profound transformation. Yet, the past has a persistent way of hunting down those who try to leave it behind, especially when there is immense profit to be extracted from their likeness. The sudden convergence of top-tier Hollywood producers, legendary independent horror studios, and digital age directors has thrust her name back into the headlines, forcing a confrontation that she had spent a quarter of a century trying to avoid. As the industry marches forward with its plans for a highly anticipated release scheduled for late September 27, the glaring absence of its original anchor becomes impossible to ignore, transforming a standard Hollywood reboot into a complex battleground over human dignity and corporate overreach. The upcoming project is being spearheaded by the formidable alliance of Lionsgate and Blumhouse, a creative partnership that has weaponized low-budget horror into a dominant box office force with global hits that have reshaped modern cinema. Their plan is to build a massive playground of updated classics, with this specific forest legend serving as the crown jewel of their ambitious new slate, promising a completely fresh vision that will reintroduce the raw terror of the woods to a contemporary audience accustomed to viral videos and instant digital gratification. The producers have expressed immense gratitude for the opportunity to manipulate this legendary intellectual property. They view it as a foundational myth, an essential milestone without which the entire landscape of modern found footage cinema would simply cease to exist. Yet, as they assemble their team of veteran executive producers, including the original creators and the surviving male cast members, they discovered that the soul of the original narrative refused to be bought. The unfolding drama exposes a deep structural rift between those who are willing to revisit the site of their youthful trauma for a chance at contemporary relevance, and a woman who recognizes that some contracts demand a price that far exceeds financial compensation. The tension building in the industry is palpable, as executives find themselves forced to navigate the public opposition of the very person whose face is inextricably linked to their marketing materials. This is no longer just a story about a movie, but an exploration of the enduring power of an individual to say no to the relentless machinery of global entertainment, setting the stage for a dramatic revelation of what really happened in those woods so long ago. To fully understand the gravity of this sudden rebellion, we must return to the freezing cold autumn of 1998, when three unknown theater actors stepped into the dense forests of Maryland under the impression they were filming a simple, experimental student project. The conditions they endured during that brief, chaotic shoot were notoriously brutal, bordering on psychological experimentation by the directors, who deliberately starved the cast, isolated them from civilization, and used real-world disorientation tactics to elicit authentic panic. For 8 exhausting days, the young woman carried the heavy burden of directing the camera, maintaining the emotional core of the group, and improvising hours of dialogue while slipping deeper into actual physical exhaustion and genuine fear. When the movie finally debuted at the Sundance Film Festival, it did not arrive as a standard independent film, but as a carefully orchestrated piece of modern folklore supported by a revolutionary internet campaign that convinced the public the footage was entirely real. The distribution company manufactured a brilliant, terrifying lie, building a website that featured fake police reports, local newspaper clippings, and staged video interviews with grieving family members. This marketing masterstroke meant that when the film expanded to theaters across the globe, the actors could not participate in traditional talk shows or promotional events, because to reveal they were alive would instantly destroy the profitable illusion that they had died in those woods. While the movie was busy generating hundreds of millions of dollars at the global box office, becoming one of the most financially successful independent features in human history against its minuscule $60,000 budget, the actual stars were effectively trapped in a bizarre state of forced anonymity. The young lead actress found herself in the deeply surreal position of reading her own obituaries in national magazines and watching her grieving mother receive condolence letters from strangers, all while she struggled to pay her monthly rent in a cramped apartment. The initial compensation for this historic, industry-defining performance was a shocking insult, as she was paid a mere $1,000 for her time in the woods, a fraction of a percent of the wealth that was actively flooding into the studio vaults. The crushing disparity between the astronomical commercial success of the project and the absolute financial desperation of its creators eventually forced the central trio to launch a massive, exhausting lawsuit against the distributor. After a prolonged and bitter legal battle, that stripped away much of the remaining romance surrounding their cinematic achievement, they managed to secure a settlement of approximately $300,000 each. While this sum provided temporary financial security, it could never undo the profound psychological toll of having one's actual identity, name, and face permanently co-opted by a massive entertainment entity. For the lead actress, the experience completely poisoned the well of her Hollywood ambitions, transforming her dream of a creative acting career into a perpetual nightmare of being recognized solely as a terrified, screaming victim. She quickly discovered that mainstream casting directors could not see past the cultural phenomenon, viewing her not as a versatile artist, but as a walking gimmick whose presence would instantly break the fourth wall of any traditional production. The industry was more than happy to continue using her iconic weeping face for merchandise, parodies, and retrospective documentaries, yet it offered her virtually no substantive opportunities to grow or evolve as a professional performer. Realizing that the system was designed to indefinitely exploit her past while denying her a meaningful future, she made the radical decision to completely abandon the entertainment industry, leaving Los Angeles behind to seek an entirely different kind of survival. This dramatic departure led her to the rugged landscapes of the American West, where she reinvented herself as a medical marijuana cultivator, trading the superficial scrutiny of Hollywood red carpets for the silent, demanding labor of the earth. She legally changed her name for a fresh start, trying to bury the ghost of the terrified girl in the woods beneath layers of soil, agricultural hard work, and deep introspection. She channeled her complex emotions into writing, eventually publishing a deeply candid memoir that detailed her journey from an accidental pop culture outlaw to a woman reclaiming her personal sovereignty through farming. Eventually, she migrated to a tiny, quiet village in Maine, embracing a life of total sobriety, dedicated Buddhist practice, and community connection far away from the toxic dynamics of celebrity culture. For years, this fragile peace remained undisturbed, allowing her to heal from the unique trauma of early exploitative fame and build an identity rooted in reality rather than fiction. However, the corporate thirst for established intellectual property is unquenchable, and it was only a matter of time before Hollywood turned its gaze back toward the dark trees of Burkittsville. The announcement that Lionsgate and Blumhouse were officially partnering to resurrect the franchise for a new generation immediately set off alarm bells across the horror community, promising a modern reimagining that would utilize cutting-edge technology. The tension truly exploded into the public sphere when high-profile industry figures began making sweeping public statements, claiming that the entire original creative team was enthusiastically participating in this lucrative corporate revival. This calculated narrative was designed to grant the upcoming project an aura of authentic legitimacy, assuring hardcore fans that the foundational creators were supportive of the new direction. But this corporate illusion shattered instantly when the former actress noticed her own image being prominently used to market a project she had absolutely no knowledge of, forcing her to confront the machinery she had fled decades prior. Breaking her carefully guarded silence on social media, she issued a direct, uncompromising statement to clear up the deliberate confusion surrounding her involvement, explicitly stating that she had chosen to stay far away from the reboot. She revealed that while the modern studio had indeed approached her with a formal contract, the terms of the agreement raised terrifying long-term questions regarding her fundamental rights and personal autonomy. The proposed contract did not just ask for her blessing, it forced a confrontation with the dark future of modern digital entertainment, including the potential technological exploitation of her identity, her physical likeness, and her distinct voice through emerging artificial intelligence tools. In an era where digital resurrection and voice synthesis are becoming standard industry practices, she recognized that signing the document could mean surrendering control of her own humanity to a corporate entity in perpetuity. Furthermore, the restrictive agreement included clauses that would have severely limited her ability to speak freely about her past experiences, effectively purchasing her silence and preventing her from ever telling her true story on her own terms. Weighing the financial incentives against the preservation of her personal freedom, she determined that her independent autonomy was worth far more than any check a major studio could write. Her public refusal has exposed the underbelly of Hollywood reboots, transforming a routine promotional campaign into a high-stakes debate about human dignity in the digital age. The principled stance taken by this solitary artist in the face of immense industry pressure highlights a much larger systemic issue that continues to plague the modern entertainment ecosystem. As technology advances at an unprecedented, dizzying pace, the lines between an individual's actual humanity and their commercialized digital likeness have become dangerously blurred. Major studios are no longer just buying a performance for a single project. They are seeking to secure the long-term digital rights to a person's very identity, including their facial structure, their vocal patterns, and their unique physical expressions. By refusing to sign away these deeply personal traits, the former actress has drawn a clear line in the sand, demonstrating that personal autonomy and self-preservation must always take precedence over corporate exploitation. Her decision to remain in her quiet, secluded Maine sanctuary, far away from the flashing cameras and superficial promises of Hollywood, serves as a powerful reminder that true peace cannot be purchased at a box office. While her original co-stars and the creators of the original 1999 film have chosen a different path, signing on as executive producers to help guide the upcoming 27 remake. Her complete absence speaks far louder than their collective participation. This division reveals a deep, lasting rift in how different individuals process the legacy of sudden, overwhelming fame and the subsequent commercialization of their personal histories. For some, returning to the franchise represents a chance to finally reclaim a stake in the massive wealth they helped generate, but were initially denied. For her, however, the project is a ghost that is best left buried in the past, a chapter of her youth that she has already successfully integrated into her journey towards spiritual and personal wholeness. Her path through life after Hollywood has been anything but ordinary, transforming her from a cinematic icon of absolute terror into a woman of quiet, grounded resilience. Her daily life in a town of less than 800 residents is filled with the simple, meaningful tasks of agricultural cultivation, community engagement, and deep Buddhist meditation. This intentional lifestyle is a radical act of defiance against a culture that constantly demands more visibility, more consumption, and more submission to public scrutiny. The publication of her deeply personal memoir allowed her to control her own narrative for the very first time, sharing her truth with the world entirely on her own terms, without the editing or filters of a studio publicity department. This creative independence is precisely what the proposed remake contract threatened to destroy, as its restrictive clauses would have effectively muzzled her, preventing her from discussing her experiences with the honesty and freedom she fought so hard to achieve. Meanwhile, the Hollywood machinery continues to march forward with its ambitious plans for the upcoming cinematic universe, oblivious to the profound human costs that lie beneath its profitable intellectual properties. The collaboration between Lionsgate and Blumhouse is designed to capitalize on nostalgia while utilizing the latest viral marketing techniques to capture a whole new demographic of viewers. The selection of a director who built their entire reputation on modern online platforms like YouTube is a clear indication of where the industry is heading, attempting to replicate the raw, unpolished energy of the original film using contemporary digital tools. Producers openly speak about the project as a magnificent opportunity to play in a creative sandbox, comparing the legacy of the original Forest myth to other massive horror franchises that have generated billions of dollars globally. They view the pioneering found footage format as a historical milestone that paved the way for decades of highly profitable cinema, acknowledging that without that original, low-budget gamble, the modern horror landscape would look entirely different. Yet, their corporate enthusiasm completely overlooks the harsh reality that the original phenomenon was built on the genuine suffering, exhaustion, and financial exploitation of its young cast. By attempting to package this complex, painful legacies into a clean, marketable product for a new generation, the studios are trying to rewrite history, presenting a unified front that simply does not exist. The public statements made by prominent producers, which falsely claimed that everyone from the original team was enthusiastically on board, were a calculated attempt to erase any underlying tension and project an image of total corporate harmony. By stepping forward to publicly correct this narrative, the former actress did not just defend her own name. She exposed the deceptive tactics that large entertainment companies routinely use to manufacture consent and legitimacy for their commercial endeavors. Her brave intervention forced the industry to acknowledge that human beings are not mere commodities that can be automatically included in corporate press releases without their explicit permission and genuine comfort. As the scheduled release date in late September 27 approaches, the film will undoubtedly generate massive headlines, intense fan speculation, and significant box office revenue across the globe. Audiences will once again flock to theaters to experience the thrill of being lost in the dark, terrifying woods, watching a new group of actors portray the classic elements of isolation, panic, and supernatural dread. But for those who know the true story behind the phenomenon, the movie will always be overshadowed by the silent, powerful protest of the woman who started it all. Her enduring legacy is no longer defined by the iconic image of a terrified girl weeping into a camcorder lens, but by the quiet strength of a mature woman who looked a multi-million-dollar corporate empire in the eye and chose her own freedom. She has proven that it is entirely possible to walk away from the highest heights of global fame and build a beautiful, authentic life rooted in personal truth, integrity, and self-respect. The dark woods of Maryland may still hold a powerful grip on the cultural imagination of horror fans around the world, but they no longer hold any power over her. Her journey stands as an inspiring blueprint for future generations of artists, illustrating the vital importance of protecting one's identity, speaking out against corporate dishonesty, and valuing personal autonomy above all else. In the end, the true victory belongs not to the studios executing their massive multi-picture deals, but to the independent spirit thriving in the quiet forests of Maine, entirely free from the monsters of the past.